Hey guys, so I've been on a very, very long journey of learning to forgive my dad. I think growing up in church is just like, okay, well, just forgive that person and that's it. No, it's a lifelong process. And so, as you know, I was kind of sharing about like how I had a bunch of divine appointments and I've had to learn to forgive my dad. And not only my dad, but like men in general, learning to forgive men in general. And so I was sitting at home and I was just like, okay, whatever. And the Lord told me, like, you need to call a Lyft or Uber, whatever, right now. So I'm sitting at home and I'm like, okay, I'm going to Pasadena. And I get in the car and it's this like older, like Asian father figure. So we start talking. And then I basically tell him like my journey of, uh, like God preparing me for marriage, but also like as I'm meeting men and talking to men, like these triggers that come up, trauma regarding my dad not being there, and like just like if someone says something bad to me, like a guy treats me bad, immediately my mind goes to I hate my dad. And I'm just like, God, I want to forgive my dad, but it's kind of hard because for some reason my heart feels that and thinks that. And 33 years of not really knowing my dad that well, and 10 years of not seeing him, these triggers are coming up, as I'm learning to communicate with men, and the hardness that is in my heart. Like, so as I was talking to this driver about my situation and my journey for forgiving my dad, he was very patient and he listened, and I started crying a little bit. And like, shoot. And like, it's been a very difficult process. Extremely, just extremely draining, but like good, because I've just been crying a lot, and these emotions that I've suppressed for so many years of my life, anger, resentment, hatred, bitterness, like all these things that, like, yeah, it's easy for someone to say forgive. It's easy for someone to say the Bible says forgive, and it's like, dude, you have no idea how it feels to like have no relationship with your father, and then like to see him and be like, who is this stranger? Why are you in my life? Why did you give birth to me? Like, why do I look exactly like you, but I have no relationship with you? And then whenever I see my dad, he talks nothing but of himself. It is all about himself. He does not ask me, how are you doing, daughter? Oh, how has your life been the last 33 years? No, it's always about him. And so, honestly, today I got really triggered. I had a guy friend call me names that he called me names, and I felt very hurt, and I was trying to express that to him and he didn't understand. And I caught myself screaming, yelling at him because I felt like he didn't understand me. And as I was talking to my friend about this, I realized it's because, like, I feel like my dad never listens to me. He doesn't understand me. And so a lot of my life, it felt like I was screaming into a void, just a dark void. And no one was listening. No one was caring, And it was weird because I actually went through like a lot of depression. I think from like middle school, just like when I was young, and everyone saw this like happy face and they're like, oh, she's such a happy person. But little did they know that I was actually very depressed. And the reason I was depressed was like I couldn't really talk about it with people, because I already had a block in my heart that was just completely like, it was like, okay, your dad's not in your life, block him out, don't think about him. So I didn't think about him at all, right? And so, like, later on in life, when I told my mom, I want to, like, see my dad, like, I want to talk to him. She's like, oh, you're grown, like, you shouldn't want to talk to your dad. So I was guilt tripped to think, like, okay, I'm not allowed to miss my dad. Like, if I miss my dad, like, there's something wrong with me because I'm a grown woman and I'm not allowed to miss my dad, right? And, like, so my mom would guilt trip me and make me feel like I was not allowed to miss my dad or to even go see him because, oh, like, are you saying that I'm not enough of a mom that you need to go see your dad? So here I was struggling with these feelings of, like, okay, I have a desire to see my dad, but I'm not allowed to, because my mom feels jealous, and my mom feels so insecure about her parenting that, like, she needs to, like, stop me from even having emotions towards my dad. So, it was just a lot of emotions, right? And, so it was just very hard. And, like, the last year God has told me, like, he's preparing me for marriage. And he's consistently brought me to men, to talk to men, to forgive men, everything to do with men. And it's been very triggering and sometimes traumatic, and painful. And I did not think it was going to be this hard to prepare myself for marriage. And I didn't think I would have to go through this. Like, no one ever talks about it. I mean, a few people talk about it online, but not really. And so, like, I would hear about stories like, oh yeah, we met in high school and then we got married and it's perfect. But, like, no one really, like, shared this kind of journey with me. Like, no one shared this kind of journey with me. No one ever talked about this kind of journey with me. That as you open up your heart to men, that you might just get triggered and think thoughts of hate towards your dad, and that everything a man does wrong will remind you of how your dad wasn't there for you. And that's great. That's really great, It's like annoying. But so this Uber driver that I just had, he told me, like, so you've done everything that you can, and, like, you've done everything in your heart to contact your dad, and he's not very responsive, and he's responded, like, 3 times in 2 years. And, like, all you can do now is just, like, understand that when he's ready to reach out, that he will. And I guess, like, part of the reason that I was also contacting him a lot was that I knew that he had liver issues, and that I just didn't want to have regrets, Like, I've heard recently of people dying and things like that, and I realized, like, yeah, part of opening up my heart to love, to marriage, is understanding that, like, I have to forgive my dad, and if I don't, I will hold resentment against men in general, and I will hold that resentment in my marriage, and that will not be healthy, because it will prevent me from feeling loved. Because when we hold unforgiveness and bitterness and anger in our hearts, it only hurts us because we're not letting love in, we're not allowing people to love us, and so it's very toxic and dangerous. And but the horrible thing is that you get triggered when you get hurt. So that's great, like, I think that when I caught myself screaming at a friend that was calling me names, I was surprised by all the anger that I was holding in. Because I think, oh gosh, you saw my booger. I think, like, my mom used to just, like, criticize us and yell at us a lot, so I learned to have a high, like, patience, or high patience, or just kind of, like, high level of holding in anger, like, holding in anger, holding in resentment, holding in expression or emotions, right? Because we're taught that, oh, be nice, like, don't be mean to people, love people, forgive them. And so we learn to hold in all of our emotions, and it's not healthy, because what that does is then you're not being honest with how you feel, and then your heart is totally blocked, and you're not able to express yourself, you're not able to cry, you're numb, and then you're not able to actually feel anything. And that's honestly, like, what I've gone through most of my life, where I was like, oh, I feel so numb, I feel nothing, and I didn't know how to express my emotions. So now it's like, wow. I mean, I cried so many times today, just like, like realizing certain things, and like processing, and like understanding why did I scream and yell. Because I felt misunderstood. All my life I felt that I didn't have a voice, that, like, even if I had an opinion or perspective on something, that my dad wasn't willing to listen, because when I did fly 11 freaking hours to go see him, he would disappear for like a few days. So my hopes and dreams of connecting with my dad was very unrealistic, because he wasn't emotionally available. And so, like, there was no discussion. Like, even when we hung out, it's like he had to drink to open up, and I didn't want to drink. So it's like, oh, if I didn't want to drink, then, like, it's like, and that's another thing that bothers me about, like going on dates and stuff, is like, guys will ask, like, do you drink? It's like, why are you asking? Like, why do you need to drink? Like, red flag, red flag. Like, my dad's an alcoholic. Like, I don't want to have a guy who just opens up because he's drunk. Like, I want him to be able to open up when he's sober, right? So, so yeah, there's a lot there to unpack, but, all of this healing started when basically I had a dream that I was swiping on a dating app, and there was all these pictures of men, and God said in the dream, get ready. And so I started to date. I started to go on dates, and I started to interact with men again, because I basically took a 4-year hiatus after breaking up with my ex. And I basically shut down completely. I was like, I am so not emotionally available. I cannot talk to men. I don't want to talk to men. Like, don't bring men to me, God. And literally there was no, like, cute guys that I was attracted to or anything on the streets. Nothing. And so then finally I was like, wait, I'm ready for marriage. I want to date. And through going on dates and dating, like, it's taught me how to be emotionally open and how to communicate with men. And it's taken a freaking long time. For some people, you don't have to go on any dates. Like, you're just ready. Cool. But for me, God had to put me through this to be able to express myself and not fear rejection, not fear failure. And, I just realized that, yeah, it's been a freaking long process. And, but I'm almost there. I can feel it. Like, okay, God, I'm almost there. Help me out. Why? But yeah, you have to take the steps of obedience to date. If you have a desire in your heart, it's not a matter of, like, waiting on God. It's a matter of putting yourself out there to learn what you need to learn, because your heart is a muscle. It's not just, if you've been alone for a long time, most likely your heart has been hardened. If you haven't cried for a long time, most likely your heart is hardened. And God wants to break that open, because you can't receive love or be happy if you're numb. And so how God does that sometimes is through triggers, and that's not fun. But yeah, that's the journey. So anyways, thanks for watching. Again, if you did not watch from the beginning, please watch this one, because this is very important to those who are going through just healing with their parents, learning to be open to whatever gender you're into. Nathan Chivas. I can tell you on DM. But anyways, thanks for watching. Bye.